Today, we're gonna dump Beej in ice water to see if that will reduce his stress. Wait, no, see if ChillPoint reduces... There's some way that this will reduce your stress.
Test the ChillPoint.
Yeah. It's like, okay, first, we put your hand into ice water
Right.
for an extended period of time in order to
See if I wet myself.
torture, to do a predefined level of torturous exposure
Right. To know how
to get your stress up.
Yeah.
We haven't figured out the second part of the experiment yet.
We're hoping that by the end of the first part, that the answer will reveal itself to how to.
Yeah.
I know there's probably it seems like there are several of you out there right now that wouldn't mind being in an ice water bath right now. Our condolences.
Yeah, things are.
It has been up and down here.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been too bad, but I hear like on the, I've seen some stuff on the East Coast. It's gotten quite warm.
Mm-hmm. This is Canada Dry's Raspberry Lemonade Ginger Ale, 0 sugar.
Ooh.
Because we do that thing sometimes on ChillPoint where it's like, this is the song of the summer, and then we all get a chance to try it. Paul doesn't like 0 sugar stuff. It leaves an aftertaste. I get to enjoy it all myself.
Yeah.
It's good.
I'm disappointed. I haven't seen any gamer flavors
Right.
yet.
We've seen electric citrus Pepsi, I think is almost the closest. Yeah.
I feel like I feel like we are overdue for a gamer ginger ale.
Yeah. Yeah. Something. Oh God. Oh no. A gamer ginger ale too. Right. Gamer ale.
Yeah.
It would be like ginger and Cheetos. I mean, that's the joke, right? It's always the joke. It's ginger and Mountain Dew. Balls, whatever. Fucking, I'm gonna drink a White Monster.
Are there ginger-based energy drinks out there?
No, I haven't seen one actually. That's really weird now that you mention it. Because I would totally have a energy ginger beer
like
type
a
thing.
Monster ginger ale.
Yeah.
Anyway, hey everybody, welcome to ChillPoint, the show where we talk about video game news and occasionally soft drinks, especially if they're video game related soft drinks, which you think would be it's like, oh, that's dumb. There's no video game related soft drinks. You are wrong. It turns out that there are a surprisingly large number of special video game edition soft drinks that come
Right. Yeah. Where you can get Halo XP for drinking this specific type of Mountain Dew or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's the Pepsi space flavor or something.
Oh, was that
one too?
Was that another time? Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Anyway. So we're talking video game news as well as the episode of Checkpoint that just went up yesterday. Sadly, Heather's not with us today.
She's still alive.
She's with us in spirit. And then in a more physical form at home.
Yes. Yeah. She's not feeling well today, and that's completely okay.
But anyway. Let's get into stuff. Now, it's interesting. Heather and I actually talked about this relaxation study last week on ChillPoint because this is one of these stories that kind of came out between Checkpoint and ChillPoint. Mm-hmm. So, and sometimes we like to, or I'll sort of bring those stories forward into the next week's sort of Checkpoint stories document with the idea that maybe there's something in there.
Where the humorous take exists that we haven't made
yet.
And
Yeah, just because we've talked about it on ChillPoint doesn't mean that it doesn't deserve a more thorough, I don't know about thorough, but more...
Pointed.
Yeah, that's a good word.
A careful treatment of how goofy this damn thing is.
And so the two things about this, I feel like the first part isn't really a video gaming thing. It's that, that I love that there is, like I said, there is the socially evaluated cold pressor test,
I'd never heard of before. Yeah.
which is I had heard of this test. They did this on MythBusters.
Oh.
For they were testing whether swearing when you get hurt or like when you're under makes you feel better.
Right. Yeah.
And they use the same thing. It's like fundamentally, if you're running a scientific experiment in which you're trying to test either stress levels or pain tolerance or something like that.
Right.
Fundamentally, you got to cause stress or cause pain.
Yeah.
Which is an unfortunate part of the thing. And in order to do that, so you need to find a way to do that in a both ethical and easily repeatable manner.
Mm-hmm.
And what scientists have sort of as a universal or as a general thing have come up with is this idea of you put your hand in ice water
right.
for an extended period of time. It is extremely unpleasant, but not dangerous in any way.
Yeah.
And it's a way that they can, and in this case, they put the ice water in. They also ask them questions, so it's there. I do like, and I think Nelson wrote this story, by the way.
Yes.
This was this is like a image, which I feel like this guy is looking far too cool and casual.
Yeah. This feels like it was the start of the study.
Yeah.
That he came in and put his hand. He's like, all right.
He's like, oh yeah, I'm doing good.
What do you mean? Like, I keep my hand in here for 5 minutes? I can do anything for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Like I feel like if the people doing the study want a picture to demonstrate what they're doing to people, they should have a picture of when somebody's a little further along.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The because you remind me with MythBusters and torture, because I remember tuning in one time and caught a bit of where they put Carrie under water torture, the drip 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 on the forehead, right? And just seeing that it's like, within 15 minutes or whatever it was of being like strapped to this board and having this thing dropped, she's like, it's not really that big a deal. And then at the end, she's like, you have to let me out of here. You have to let me go. Like, and it's like, oh no, like, and I believe that, right? Like, I'm like, yeah, you do anything like that really burns you up. It's like, it's going to be awful.
Yeah. And of course, again, once, especially in like the sort of MythBusters kind of for fun TV setting.
Yeah.
You're sort of trying to do it in a way that it's like the whole point of the thing is that it's not only physically, torturous, but also sort of psychologically thing. And obviously you don't want to mess up psychologically your host.
Absolutely you don't, right? Yeah. So anyway.
But then the other part of the story is that, of course, they're using Plague Tale Requiem. And I think the biggest reason why they ended up using this game is because it's a relatively recent game and it has both action and comparatively relaxed parts in one game. So that's sort of theoretically removing an aspect of the thing. And I saw some people in the comments being like, this is another one of those like, why do we need scientists to tell us something that we already knew?
Yeah.
They've already done lots of things about how, taking your mind off stuff will relax you and things.
Yeah.
And it's like, this was a very specific, what they were testing here was specifically, does playing something relaxing de-stress you more or less than playing something that is, it's this interesting idea that like playing a high stress game actually de-stresses you.
Right. Yeah.
Which is
because it provides an outlet for the
and what was interesting, one of the things that because they did all sorts, they did both uh, like questionnaire, like subjective stuff, and they also did objective measurements like saliva and blood pressure and this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is they found that the people who were playing the stressful part of the game, so playing like an action-packed part where presumably thousands of rats are coming at you,
Yeah.
or you're attacking. I don't know how.
Whatever it is. But yeah.
They said that it was like, oh, that was a stressful thing, but their markers for stress had actually gone down. So like they reported being stressed, and I would say, like, from, I would say my anecdotal experience would be that, because not all stresses are the same.
Yeah.
And the kind of stress that you get from playing a really, even a really violent video game or a very intense video game compared to sort of real stress, as in, something in my real life that I have to deal with.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though those are both technically stress, it is definitely a different feeling, and and the game can certainly provide relief.
Oh, yeah.
From the other.
Yeah, like I've had like playing Subnautica. I've had stressful moments of like,
can be a very, very stressful game.
yes, and having the fish who just appear to be, I'm just doing my thing and I'm not going to come bug you, and all of a sudden they decide it's like, no,
I've decided to come bug you.
Yeah, I'm going to do a thing now.
And by
and you're
bug
like,
you, I mean eat you.
and I don't know what they want, and I don't know if it's like you're just going to kind of take a look at my submarine, or are you actually going to, and it's like, no, I'm going to tear you limb from limb if I can do it. And those moments of stress, which I hate, like, no, and I hate those. It's like it's the thing about Subnautica I like the least. And yet I played both games because I was like, this game is so fun and I like it so much that I will put up with these tiny moments of this stuff sucking so bad. And I'll just have to be way more careful, which I don't know if that means a good thing or a bad thing. But
it's not just the submarine. For me, it was I'm hiding in this thing from this giant monster that wants to eat me.
Yeah.
And I'm running out of oxygen.
Yes.
So at a certain point, I'm going to have to decide.
Yeah. It's like one of the two things I have to decide what's going to happen here. But
simultaneously has both the most amazing, beautiful imagery and the most stressful. stuff.
And I'm doing a lot of swimming and whatnot, swimming and being in the ocean and weeds and everything. It's like, it's all very calming to look at and everything else. And as you say, in real life, I have had adrenaline shocks from stuff where it's just like a thing is happening and all of a sudden I just feel this massive shock of like a lightning bolt where my body just floods and I can just feel everything stand up on end. Like it's just like I can feel every muscle start to twitch and just all sorts of things happen, and you get that sick feeling in your stomach. It's just like everything's happening right now because this very bad thing is happening right now. And I've had that, and I'm like, never had that having played a video game.
Right.
So that kind of stress, they are two very different types of things. And what they're testing for, obviously, is, well, can you use a video game to express stress from your body? Like not like, like expressing an anal gland, right? Can you express stress from your body in a way that channels it in a direction? And is it better to do it through a less stressful part of a game or a more stressful part of a game? Because ultimately, what effect does it have? That's something we don't know, and now we're finding it out.
Yeah, but the important thing to sort of emphasize with this is that this wasn't testing how good is Plague Tale Requiem at getting rid of people's stress.
Right.
But it was just they were using that as a, it's always the case when you get into these kind of experiments, in order for it to be sort of a useful thing that's building on the knowledge of the past and for the future and stuff, the conclusions that they get to tend to be quite narrow.
Yeah.
And that's not a problem. Like that's intentional. It can sometimes run into problems when people do kind of blow it up to be
Oh yeah.
a bigger thing.
Yeah, Plague Tale Requiem cures cancer. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, no.
That's not what we said.
Yeah.
You know who would love this though is Child's Play. Like, because they have been.
I mean, they've got all that. They've
Yeah.
got a bunch of info. I mean, obviously theirs is more directly related to children in hospitals.
Exactly.
But it's the same, it's a very similar kind of info that they have.
That understanding, you know, and the more this stuff gets tested, it's like this all has a benefit here because the more you learn about and the more you say, because like there's going to be kids who are like, I can only relax if I'm playing Darkest Dungeon.
Right, because that's the thing. Like you know, if a kid is undergoing something very stressful, or if somebody's doing something stressful, the inclination is to be like, oh,
I'll teach you Stardew Valley.
Yeah, you should be Stardew Valley,
Yeah.
or you should be playing something really relaxing.
Yeah,
But sometimes that's not what you want.
exactly.
Yeah. Funny how you mentioned Subnautica.
Yeah, funny that. Why am I thinking about Subnautica so much these days?
So Subnautica 2, we're very excited to come out. It's going to be entering early access theoretically in 2025. Hopefully it will be good. I have seen, so the story that Graham had here was that the three sort of top people from Unknown Worlds have left Unknown Worlds. In a very, it's a very like, they've decided to pursue other things.
Yeah.
The three people, they have not. The CEO, the director and lead programmer, and the co-founder of Unknown Worlds.
Yeah.
None of the three of them have released their own statements.
That's interesting too.
And the Crafton, who own Unknown Worlds, statement was, we were sad to see them go, but we wish them the best in their future endeavors.
Yes.
And we're bringing on the guy who was the director of Callisto Protocol.
I have to assume, it's just straight up speculation, so always with a grain of salt, but I have to assume that if these three people haven't said anything upon leaving, it's either because they're like, I don't want to queer my chances with trying to do something new in the future by making an enemy of a giant company like Crafton, or B, they were told that you'll be leaving, you'll be receiving this package, you'll be signing this contract,
there's an actual NDA.
Yeah,
involved.
and for this amount of time, you're not allowed to talk about what happened here. And maybe they were like, fucking whatever, sure, give me my $5 million payout and let me go on my way, and because maybe that's just easier on everybody involved. Who knows? Because I want to believe that these three people who are at the top of this company were like, oh yeah, we made 2 previous games in this genre, and we're making the hotly awaited sequel to it. We are definitely into the idea of continuing to make Subnautica for a long time. We really loved doing this because we've made 2 of them already, and therefore, we're sticking around. Like, yeah.
We'll know, we'll get an idea what happened if these 3 people start up a new studio and announce a game called
Nubsautica.
Underwaterca.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true.
A spiritual successor.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And now we don't know what it's going to be. And we can guess on that too, but
there have certainly been there are certainly a lot of comments in the on the YouTube video about this, of people being like, that has dropped Subnautica 2 from, a must buy to I'm going to wait and see.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm afraid that's probably it for me as well. That being said, I don't really like to get stuff in early access, so I'd probably be waiting on it anyway. But anyway.
And I played it on Switch, so I was waiting for it to come to Switch before I was actually going to play it. And
Right.
I had played an early access build with Corey because she showed up one time onto a stream I was on, or I came to a stream she was on. We somehow ended up in the same stream together, and she's like, "You should play this." And I'm like, "I want to because it sounds amazing." She's like, "Well, no, here, then play some." And I did, and I'm like, "Yes, this is everything I want. I want to swim around a bit and look at some fishies, and I want to build stuff with a magical machine that lets me swim around faster and look at more fishies." And it's like, it's so tailored to like little things in my brain that I want, that I want this next game to be amazing. I think we all do.
Yeah.
We got to wait and see.
The Commodore 64.
Yes.
Or the Commodore itself. Had the brand, and what that actually means, I don't know. But apparently the brand has been acquired by a YouTuber.
Yes.
Or at least
And not a random YouTuber.
it has been acquired by, I think it's probably more accurate to say it's a sort of consortium led by him. Like, I think he has partners in the
Yeah,
he is the CEO of this new company, though.
So Perry Fractic,
Yes.
Christian Simpson, but Perry Fractic, he seems to go by that online, so we can just keep calling him that. From the Retro Recipes YouTube channel, and if you go watch some of those, they're very interesting. He has a very ASMR voice, and he talks in a very low tone all the time, and it's kind of nice to listen to him talk like this all the time. But also then you get a commercial and everything goes goddamn wild. But sounds like a very gentle soul. I'm sure he's a very nice man too. I don't know much about him. Maybe he's not. I don't know. But he wanted to buy Commodore. He's always wanted to like work at Commodore, I guess, when he was like a little tyke. And through a thing of trying to say, hey, I've got this idea for how this company that currently owns all the Commodore rights or all the Commodore rights and trademarks, how you can do a new Commodore computer thing and we can do this. And they just turned around and were like, what if we just sold you all the rights and everything and you can just make that happen? And I'm like, the thing that bugs me about this is that I'm like, oh, well, that happened. And it was like easy too. Like you just acquired that pretty straightforward. Like it's at low seven figures. And I mean, yes, you have to remortgage your house and whatnot, and you're going to find some people to help you out with this and everything. But man, that happened easy. Like almost like you needed to exchange something in order to pass the curse along from one company to another.
So
I'm just like, oh shit.
my favorite thing about this story is, Beach says, over the past 30 years, the trademarks and patents have been passed around like some sort of nightmare blunt rotation.
Because I couldn't say the thing I wanted to say because I know I'd get in trouble with everybody. So I settled on nightmare blunt rotation.
But what I loved about that is, and I'm sure there's probably, maybe even the Retro Recipes channel, I'm sure somebody has done a deep dive on the history of the Commodore, company and IP, but it is kind of amazing.
Oh yeah.
In the sense of it being one of the more complicated sort of trying to trace the lineage.
Yeah, the family tree is nuts.
Because Commodore Commodore International, basically it keeps getting it keeps sort of being basically out of business, and then having its assets bought by another company. In like for instance, the first one that bought it was like a Dutch tulip company.
Yeah.
Basically, and it gets bought by like another company that wants to either make computers or make electronics of some kind.
Yes.
And feels the Commodore brand is useful.
Mm-hmm.
Often that company will then rename itself to Commodore.
Yeah.
And then some time will go by, they'll fail,
Yes.
and somebody else will buy it. And then that new company will then also rename itself. So you have this lot of situations where Commodore has bought Commodore from Commodore.
Yeah.
because people keep renaming themselves to the, because
Ultimately,
the name is and the logo and stuff is the thing that sort of has value.
yeah.
And so a lot of the time, like it'll be like a holding company or like sort of a, whatever, some very sort of generically named company
Yes.
will buy it and then rename themselves to Commodore. And then at some point also the Amiga
Yeah.
IP became separate from the Commodore IP.
Yeah.
And then those sort of went off separately, and companies started some companies called themselves Amiga and some companies called themselves Commodore. And I believe on a couple of occasions, one company has owned both IPs and then they separated out again.
Yeah, it felt like it anyway, yeah.
And then there have been also extensive legal disputes because the IP of Commodore versus IP of Amiga are very tangled together, and so it's like what makes something what makes it fall into one category versus the other. Anyway, it's kind of fascinating.
It's a good read if you want to give yourself 20 minutes on a Wikipedia article,
but also somewhat difficult to sum up in one shoulder graphic.
Yes.
So instead, I just did like a bunch of headlines. I just like sort of grabbed a bunch of headlines.
Yeah.
Where, my favorite was like, Commodore, it was like Commodore bought by, this, Dutch Tulip
By
company.
Tulip, yeah.
By
Tulip,
right. It's just called, the company was actually called Tulip.
Yeah.
And then like another headline being like, Tulip sells Commodore to this company. These guys buy it. Are they going to die? Are they going to... Anyway.
I had many thoughts. Christ. Okay. I think we have time. I'm not gonna overdo it, but I have so many thoughts for this. I make an aside. I have no idea if Perifractic is even watching this or even if he cares. He's probably too busy. Doesn't really matter. I make an aside where I say that this is not a play for nostalgia. Like, he's very upfront about it in the two videos he's made, the first half and the second half of what's happened here. Where in the first video, he sets up his entire plan for what he was going to do, and he gets to the end of that, in the end of the video, and realizes that, or he gets offered the chance to, it's set up cinematically, but it's like he gets offered the chance to buy it, and then that gives him part 2 video.
That must be like a little, I mean, assuming it happened that way for real, that must be like a little bit disconcerting. Like, it would be like if we had a cool idea for like, oh man, imagine if we could do like, unofficial, whatever, Beigelander magic set.
Yeah.
And then we go to Wizards of the Coast and we're like, we have this amazing idea for a Beigelander magic set. And Wizards of the Coast is like, that's great. Actually, do you just want to buy our company?
Like, what?
We'll sell it to you for cheap.
Oh, shit.
We're like, uh-oh.
Yeah,
no.
I'm way outside of my ability to know what I should do now, so we got to think about that.
But yeah, when you come to a company with an idea,
yeah,
and the response is, "Could you please buy us?"
Yeah, we just prefer you do that, and it's like, oh no,
I was unsure of how I did not know what we were dealing with here.
And so when he gets into the second video, and you should watch both videos. I think they're very interesting. But him talking about in the second video where he starts digging up all these old people who were part of the original Commodore whatever, which makes me think that these people, like if he's my age, so 45, 46, mid-40s kind of thing, these guys are going to be in their 60s easily, right? Like they're going to have to be in their 60s easily. I'm like, they're ready to retire. Most of them, I don't know how many of them went on to have like massive, amazing careers and changing the industry in also different ways or whatever. And you really have to understand what constituted Commodore, because it wasn't just like we make a computer. Like they literally bought MOS technology because they needed to keep MOS afloat so that they could actually continue to make their computers. There's lots of stuff going on there. But anyway, but then he also says this isn't just a play at nostalgia. And I believe that, but it is still a play at nostalgia.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't, he could just make the thing that he wants to make and not call it a Commodore and release it to the market, and just like based on the fact of who he is as a YouTuber and whatnot, and he has an audience, he could try to sell them on this thing. Why do I know that? Because the 8-bit guy,
I was going to say there's lots of YouTubers who do stuff like that.
yeah, the 8-bit guy wanted to make a Commodore compatible 8-bit computer, and I guess maybe more of a 16-bit computer in this way, and he's made the Commander X16, which does not have any Commodore logos on it or anything whatsoever.
Commander, though, yeah.
Right, but it's Commander, so it's
Yeah.
about the same length. And it has, rainbow logo and stuff too. It's all meant to evoke the idea of the Commodore 64. And I'm like, that's a recent project. Like, that's a pandemic project. Like, that's something that's been going on at this time. I'm like, this is a guy who is like, I want to make a thing like this. And people have made Commodore compatible computers for years. That they haven't been able to call Commodore for whatever reason. Like the Mega 65 was one of them. C64DTV was one they couldn't actually call Commodore, but it was like a reimplementation. And that says to me that if you're like, I have a great idea for a product that I think will fundamentally change the industry, which is a thing that he's really talking about in the video, that he's like, this is a thing where we'll respect your time and we won't spy on you and all those kind of things. I'm like, right, if you could do that just on its own, then you would assume that people would start to flock to that slowly at first, and then quickly as it gains more popularity and becomes the thing people want to use. But instead, you want to make it a Commodore project, and you want to trade on the nostalgia of that, and you want to trade on the nostalgia of bringing back these people who were part of it. Who even knows if they have any good ideas left? I'm not saying they don't, but it's like you're bringing back a lot of people who are at the end of their career, which sounds like a shitty thing to say, and it kind of is, but it's like you're bringing back a lot of people who are at the end of their career now to have them try to shepherd this thing through to become a thing. Why? Because ultimately it is a big nostalgia trip. And it's okay to lean into that, which is the second point I was making, right? It's like it's okay to say this is an amazing thing and I want to do something new with the idea of that. But we've already had people make cool stuff.
Now,
MP3 players with a Commodore logo on them.
Now, my impression is that he's not necessarily going to be want to build like a Commodore 64 sort of compatible thing. Like, the idea is to make a
new device,
a modern device with modern capabilities that is sort of in keeping with what he considers to be the Commodore ethos. Yeah. But it's not like it's going to be a 8-bit whatever. Like it's he wants to make a modern device that is hackable and doesn't spy on you and is simple enough for people to work on and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's still a modern device. The idea is not to make a Commodore clone, is what I'm saying.
So and I think an interesting parallel with that is that, for years, up until I think it was even 2019, the most popular computer ever sold was the Commodore 64 in the world. Because when you think of a computer like this, there's probably 10 different models of this specific
there
type
just
of
weren't
computer.
that many computers back
Exactly.
then. Yeah.
So the Commodore 64 was just like, it was like buying consoles, right? It's like, it was a computer. So most units sold of a single type of computer, the Commodore 64. It got passed in 2019. Do you know what the new computer that has surpassed the Commodore 64 in terms of units sold? It's the thing that I think has replaced Commodore, the Commodore 64, as an idea for a low-cost, easy-to-hack, well-understood, and modern computer. The Raspberry Pi.
Right. Again, you need something that it's like, any sort of commodity desktop computers don't keep the same model number for long enough.
They don't. And a whole bunch of people building desktop models and putting different parts in and doing whatever. It's all that. But I'm like, ultimately, the Raspberry Pi, a single targetable model, and then has now, we have 5 different ones. You have ones that are built into keyboards and stuff, and people use them to hack and do whatever. I'm like, my dude, I think the Raspberry Pi has moved into that market and as an easily hackable whatever. So I'm like, so the only thing that's left in that market to occupy is the user-friendly edition of that type of computer. The one where you can go home and you can plug it in and you can get going. But I feel like This is the real
And
pessimist.
there's also a billion Raspberry Pi-esque clones.
Exactly. And I'm like, but the thing that gets me about, well, we want it to be a user-friendly experience, the kind of like, we're just going to call it an Apple-like experience, right? The thing where it's like, here is your phone or here is your Mac, and you can click on the things and it kind of guards against you doing anything terrible. I think as we've seen with like those devices over the years as well, is the idea of user-friendliness, but also advanced hackability start to run into each other real quickly, where it's like Macs are getting more and more locked down to the point where they're not as easy to hack. And once you learn how to hack them, then you can do that, but it takes so much effort. And
those ideas tend to be are often sort of diametrically opposed to each other.
Yeah, and I think the Commodore 64, for its time, because I did use one, I did have one, occupied a space of, this is a computer that me as like a 5 or 6 year old child, I could understand how to make the games work. That I could sit down and put a disk in and I could go load star, comma 8, comma 1 and then hit run. And like,
but like,
that was what user friendliness was for that era.
Right. But like, what does load star, comma 8, comma 1 mean?
Yeah.
Right. You just wrote that because that's how you start the game.
Yeah.
Right?
I think comma 8 is look at the first disk in the disk drive chain. I think I can't remember, but yeah.
Like when it's basically a console, it's easy to make it user friendly.
Yes.
Because there's not much it's doing.
Yeah.
But when things start getting more complicated, unfortunately, and in this modern world of security and things, it becomes unfortunately difficult.
And so how do you build a computer that is straight up user friendly to people who don't really understand computers, and make them feel like, oh, this is a thing I can use for my email and to do this and to do that, but doesn't have Facebook on it and doesn't have Twitter on it and doesn't have all these other things that are meant to distract me or build an experience that doesn't expose me to a whole bunch of notifications. It's like, it's just a thing that works. And I'm like, I have a hard time understanding who your market is, because it really feels like what your market is guys who hate where, like, I shouldn't say guys, people who hate where the industry has gone and care enough about that to be like, I need to react against that. I need to build a framework laptop or the Fairphone or something like that to be like, this is for those people who are very sticky about those kind of things. And I don't know. I don't know how big that market is. If it's 1 million people though, you've got 1 million customers. That's great. Do your jam. I want this to succeed so much. I really, really do. But man, do I have opinions.
Let's go on to now. Okay. We don't necessarily have to spend a lot of time on this because it's just kind of a bummer.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Microsoft laid off a whole ton of people.
Yeah.
In addition to the whole ton of people they laid off in May.
They were very much like 6,000. Wait, hold my other beer.
Yeah. So, and this is also having assured the FCC that, or FTC, I guess.
This is completely in keeping with their merger agreements.
That they wouldn't be doing this.
Yep.
And they were being investigated for both that and also other aspects where they were things that they were doing improperly in regards to the agreements that they made when they did the merger. The FTC was investigating that until some personnel changes happened there, and they are no longer doing that.
Yep.
So anyway, it's hard to say too much about this except it sucks, and I hope I hope people can find somewhere, land on their feet somewhere else. It's a lot, the fact that this includes, now when they say, I will say that when they say it's like 4% of the workforce, from what I understand, that's 4% of Microsoft as a whole.
Yes.
And the 9,000 people are from Microsoft as a whole. because we're coming at this through the lens of video game stuff, and all the sources are talking about how all these games are canceled and different studios are losing a bunch of people and stuff.
Right.
The percentage of that 9,000 that is from the like Xbox Microsoft video game division, I don't actually know.
Right.
Or I don't know if that's actually been put out. And so what percentage of that, what percentage of the video game division has been cut?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's actually been made clear. But whatever the case, it's bad.
It is bad.
And canceling a couple of projects that people were really excited about. A couple of people in the comments were saying like Joanna Dark, the hero of Perfect Dark, just never gets a break.
Yeah.
Like there's been like Perfect Dark sequel rumors for, as long as ever since the first game came out.
Right.
And then there was supposed to be an update, which I think could have been really cool. One of the things Perfect Dark was, it was N64 game made by Rare after they no longer had the 007, the James Bond license. It was sort of basically using the same system as GoldenEye, but with the but with this new IP. And to be honest, the N64 couldn't handle it. Yeah. 4-player, like I remember playing like 4-player split screen Perfect Dark.
Yeah.
And if you played 4-player split screen or even seen people play 4-player split screen of GoldenEye, it is so painful. Like you're looking at it like, how did we play this? It's like 10 frames a second.
Yeah.
Perfect Dark was worse. Perfect Dark was like 5 frames a second. Like it was bad. Playing it, the actual game was great.
Oh yeah.
And it had all sorts of really interesting creative things. There was like a gun that could shoot through walls, and there was really cool stuff.
The single player experience was really good. It used the expansion pack as well, I think, so they were trying to do more with it.
But yeah. So the idea that there could be in this case a remake. So a remake using a modern engine, it could kind of finally get its. And even like it would have been awesome to see a remake that actually they actually had like the 4-player split screen.
Oh yeah.
Would have been cool. And it seems like with all the remakes and remasters and all the things that are in the industry now, it would seem like something like that would be relatively low-hanging fruit.
Yes.
Obviously when you're going from N64 to a modern game engine, it's not like you can just upscale stuff. They would have had to do a lot of work.
Yeah.
But I feel like it wouldn't be as much work as an entirely new thing. And
because you have your entire game plan set out already.
And there's a sort of a built-in audience, and it could have been like, it seems like that would have been a kind of a no-brainer as like a thing to keep. But apparently not.
Well, they tried updating GoldenEye 007 for the Wii, and that was, I don't think it was received it was mixed reviews is my understanding for that. They tried doing a re-implementation of GoldenEye, I think on an Xbox product later on. I don't know if that was like Xbox 360 or Xbox One, and that one was apparently very playable and people really enjoyed it. Like, it's getting beyond that. I think the thing that we will all feel is that you want to look at that thing of 9,000 people have been let go, and then 6,000 on top of that. And if any percentage of them, if even a couple thousand of them are like, well, we're all part of game development, we all hope that they land in a new place. But part of that, you do wonder where you're like, oh, they let all these people go. If they were also good enough at their jobs that they could continue to make games, then I would hope that you get 100 of them in a brand new studio. Like just a bunch of them saying like, why don't we just start a studio and why don't we just try to make this happen? Why don't we tell people it's like, this is what we worked on, and find some angel investors and then try to spin up a game. And of course, it's not that easy.
And then, 6 months later, you get bought out by Microsoft.
And that's the thing, right? Because it's like, we need more money. And then Microsoft says, well, we like your new idea for a game, so we're going to buy you. It's like, you literally just fired us all. All of us just used to work there. You still have us in your HR records. I'm sure about this. And you want to hire us back. My key card
still works.
Yeah, shit, my key card still works, right? Like, and that's the thing that bugs me is like, it's the part of what I said at the last, at the end of, in the after show is it's just like the idea of, oh, well, it's fine because all we have to do is narrow the amount of games that are released every year from 1,000 to 100 to 10, and there's only 10 games you can buy in a year, and therefore you have no other choice but to buy video game A through J from us. Because now we're the only ones who make a video game. And so you'll have to buy them from us, and we're the only ones who can make them, and there's only 10 that are ever going to be released, and we're going to charge $150 or whatever. Like those kind of ideas, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like the thing of, I just want you to put money in my hand and then go fuck off to the woods. I don't care if you buy anything from me or not. Ultimately, we know where this all kind of ends up. And I'm like, with all these people getting let go, I want to see a lot of them start their own studios and make stuff.
I think it is fun that, or it is positive that I don't think like what you're saying there can't happen.
Yeah.
You know, the process of making video games has been so democratized.
Yeah.
That, sure, AAA whatever title.
But it costs so much money.
But you know, for every one of those, but then there's also, you know, there's Stardew, there's Balatro, there's all these, you know, games that are, or even, Subnautica,
yeah,
the original one anyway, was quite a relatively small team.
Yeah.
Until they got, you know, bought out and stuff.
Yeah.
But so like, I think, you know, it is an industry that resists monopolization, I think, in a good way.
I would hope so.
But yeah, it is very, very unfortunate.
It's that I want people to be like, I don't need to belong to a giant corporation like Microsoft. Like if Microsoft comes calling and says, we want to give you $500 million for your company, I want those people to turn around and say, kick rocks. Like I want them to, I want more of those kind of things to be like, we make a good game and we're going to keep making this good game, and we don't need to be bought out by a giant company to keep making this good game. And why? Because we sell enough copies of it that we can afford to keep all of us in the company afloat. And the company exists, and everybody, it's like this place, right? It's like we make reasonably good money, enough to kind of keep most people like in money, and to keep the place open, and to keep the company afloat. And I'm like, and that's good. Patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. So I want that for every time these people get fired. I just want to be like, I just want them one day to stand up and look around and be like, oh shit, we fired too many people. They're all gone now. You know, right? We don't have studios anymore. We have studios and we have all this IP, and everyone's off making all their own games now. They don't give a shit about whether or not they get to play Warcraft anymore. There's just other games out there.
So this actually segues nicely into a story that we didn't cover this week on ChillPoint. This is a great article on Ars Technica that was posted earlier this week.
Yeah.
And the article is called "What's Wrong with AAA Development." So,
okay. Yeah.
You know where this is going to begin with, but basically the what this article is talking about is information about the new Battlefield game that's coming out, that is currently under development. And basically the problem with it is that Battlefield is a very successful franchise, often kind of the head-to-head, if somewhat slightly behind Call of Duty in terms of success.
Right.
But, you know, Call of Duty is the biggest, so being there is pretty good. But the problem is that they've kind of gone all in on this game. Apparently they've spent $400 million developing the next Battlefield game. And they have set their and again, you know, we talk about this a lot on ChillPoint, the idea of the targets and the expectations.
Yeah.
Didn't meet expectations. They've set an expectation for this game for $100 million sales, like players. The previous most successful Battlefield game was 30 million.
Oh, honey, no. Oh.
And that was like not the most recent Battlefield game. Like the most recent one, Battlefield 2048,
Yeah.
was less than, that was like 20 million.
Oh, no.
And they're like, so this is the like, because we've spent $400 million making this,
Yeah.
it now has to be effectively the best selling game of all time.
Yeah.
Like
By
that's got to be
3 times the amount.
but like I think that's higher than like
GTA or
than like
Skyrim.
Well, it's higher than like Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And you know, and they're like comparing it in terms of players to other games that are like free to play games. And this is not going to be a free to play game.
No. It's going to cost $90 or $100. Like if they're basically saying I need to sell 100 million of these and let's say the game costs $100, that means that's oh my God, that's $10 billion that they're expecting that we would need to make in revenue based on that. So that's more than so 9 billion, 8 billion, at $80 a game is $8 billion. And, is that fair? Should we say it should be a $70 game? So it's $7 billion. Because I get the idea of like, we need to sell so much that we're not doing just pure cost recovery. We put $400 million into this game. We can't just make $400 million to cover our costs on this game. We need to make enough money to line the pockets of all the greedy whomever's out there. And then also have some in reserve, hopefully, to be able to pay people to work on the next game. It's going to take 3 years to develop. That'll cost $400 million.
And also, like, and in the case of Battlefield, part of this is that, like, back in February of 2024, they shuttered Ridgeline, which was one of the studio that was working on the, like, single player campaign portion of it. Okay. And so then, of course, another studio had to sort of pick up the pieces and stuff. And so it's, and you know, we've talked about this. We've talked about this before, especially in the context of like, you know, Square Enix or the other game, right? Where you're going so deep on one of these games, on spending money on these things, that it's like, in order for this to recoup our losses, it has to be the most successful game of all time. Yeah. Or at least one of the like top 5 most successful games of all time. And you know, this is obviously with the Battlefield games like Call of Duty or whatever, it's primarily, there's a campaign, but it's primarily a multiplayer game. Yeah. Okay. Right. So it's not only we have to do this thing, but we're doing this thing, and then we're going to it's got to keep going. Right. People are going to have to keep playing it when the new Call of Duty comes out, when the new whatever comes out. Yeah. And because we're going to be selling the microtransactions, and we're going to be doing all this other stuff. Yeah. Because that's how it's got to work too.
Yes, you're right. Yeah. It's so funny to me because like at $100 a game, just to recoup the cost that they spent, they would need to sell 4 million copies before they'd be able to say, okay, we broke even on what we've already invested into this game and this everything else that we've put in front of it. We need to sell 4 million copies of something in order to break even. And I'm just like, God damn, that's way too many t-shirts for me to think about. When I think about making t-shirts or making anything else, it's always like, what do I price this at, and where's my break-even point, so I know if I sell X many of this piece of merchandise that I've done whatever. I'm like, I've never thought above like at that much of being able to sell that much of anything. And I'm like, well, they have a fan base, and maybe they know that they'll be able to sell 10 million right off the bat, maybe 20 million right off the bat. And I'm like, but they're asking for 100 million. And I don't know, like, is that going to be like selling through Xbox Game Pass? Is that going to be selling to like,
I mean, so this is going to be, so this is going to be this, you know, I'm sure we're going to be back with this. There's going to be a post. We're going to be back with a thing being like, you know, Battlefield comes out, sells 20 million, 30 million, 40 million copies.
Deemed a failure.
Bunch of studios are being laid off. Yeah.
But don't worry, we'll make another Battlefield game in 6 years by a completely different studio, or we'll keep the DICE studio name and put a whole bunch of new people in it. We can pay them way less money, and don't worry, we're also going to outsource it to a different company or a different country, so we can pay them less money to work on this game. Yeah, run this shit into the ground.
Anyway, this article is really interesting.
It sounds interesting,
and it basically talks about some of the problems that they encountered and things. What I love, there's this one particular thing. EA has a system called a system of gates, they call, for setting the pace of development. So projects have to sort of meet certain criteria to pass the gate in order to sort of move to the next stage of development, which by itself doesn't seem like a terrible idea. So it's saying, like, for gate 1, teams must have a clear sense of what they want to make and some proof of concept showing that this vision is achievable.
Oh, okay.
And they're like, okay, we're going to go in there.
Very good idea.
Gate 2 is building out and testing the key technologies and seeing if it can work at scale.
Okay.
Gate 3 is if you pass gate 3, you're in full production. They're saying that basically they were not like they were. A lot of the in this article it says, and inside is saying a lot of the systems that were supposed to be in the game were not in a state that they should have been, and then by the time they sort of got to the point where they needed to demonstrate the sort of gate 3 thing, and they were kind of, it's fine, pass through.
Oh, Jesus. Oh.
Right. Because the point of the gates thing
Yeah.
is so that you don't spend $400 million on something that won't work.
Except that Battlefield is one of these things where they're like, it's too big to fail.
Right.
Oh,
Too big to
Jesus.
fail.
Yeah.
So they're saying that, like, so former employees, in this article are saying, like, it shouldn't have passed. It was passed through these checks without having the things, seeing if you don't have these kind of things fleshed out when you're leaving pre-production, you're just going to be playing catch up the whole entire time you're in production.
Yeah, you're paying off a whole bunch of technical debt, I guess, is maybe a way to think about it.
And of course, in some cases, employees who flagged problems were punished. Two employees each told me, the journalist here, that they found themselves cut out of meetings once they raised concerns.
Oh, dear.
So anyway,
it's funny because what that says to me, I'm going to get up on the mic for this. It's funny because what that says to me is that it's like, we have a bunch of people here who are very interested in maintaining their paycheck for as long as possible. That as long as they never have to go back to the people who ultimately sign that paycheck at the top and have to justify the choices that they made, it's like, then we can continue to keep getting paid for the next 2 or 3 years, and hopefully we'll catch up and we'll just keep saying, oh, just a little more money and we'll get there. Just a little more money, we'll get there, right? And it's not your problem whether you sell 400 million copies of this game or however many it is that you need to sell. 100 million? It was 100 million. If you can't sell 100 million copies of this game, because ultimately your job is to shepherd this whole thing, and when they fire a whole bunch of people, it's probably not going to be your name as the one who signed off on that shit.
And then, and they're like, what happened? And you're like, well, if you see my budget,
yeah,
if we had sold 100 million, we'd be fine now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not really my fault.
Yeah.
I'm not the one responsible for the quality of the game.
Yeah.
I was just responsible for setting unrealistic requirements. Anyway. Other stuff. Full Metal Schoolgirl. Seems like this might be relevant to your interests.
Yeah, it was actually. When I saw the trailer, I was like, ooh, I watched the Japanese trailer. I was like, ooh, this looks like fun. Maybe not my jam. It is a game by the, if you want to know, by the same people who brought us One-chan Bara. If that means anything to anybody.
Also Earth Defense Force.
And Earth Defense Force, yeah.
Apparently, it is a future where one big company runs everything, and schoolgirls with machine guns are fighting their way through like a business tower
Yep.
in order to stop that in
Yep.
some way. Looks like it's got. It actually reminds me a little bit of like Hi-Fi Rush.
Oh,
just
yeah.
in the style.
Very cell-shaded, yeah.
And that sort of third-person combat and close combat.
Yep. Everyone's very expressive. I love it. It's as ridiculous an idea as stuff like Metal Wolf Chaos and like all this kind of.
Right.
I love that the title and who's singing it is massive on the screen, but yeah, it's that's the theme song is what we just saw there. The name of that, showing us that you can play as either character and they're all animated the same way, so you can decide if you're more of the Gyaru or more of the dark-haired Kudere. You know,
there's also an English language trailer.
there sure is. I don't care. I'm probably also not going to play this game either. But it knows exactly what it is, doesn't it? It is a very like the girls are robots, I think, or maybe they're cyborgs. I think they might just be robots with like
all the like yeah, I think they're cyborgs or something. Yeah. Anyway,
it's so goofy. Yeah.
It seems like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's, coming out October 23rd for Switch 2, PlayStation 5, Windows PC.
Wow. Okay.
One of the few games that I've seen specifically being like Switch 2 exclusive.
Yeah.
Other than like Mario Kart.
Yeah. Yeah. That I mean, we live in that world now. There's a new Switch out, and now games will be announced as being like this thing is coming to the Switch 2. That's where it's, and we're gonna start hearing. I'm kind of even wondering if we're gonna get to a point. Maybe it's gonna be in 3 years or 4 years time. I'm gonna say maybe in 3 years time, where we're just gonna refer to this game that's coming out on the Switch, and nobody will think about having to correct themselves because you just like this thing's on the PlayStation. It's like, oh, I know you mean PlayStation 5, right?
Right.
We might just be in that life
for the sake of retail workers. I really hope that the difference between like cross-compatible and only Switch 2 games is clear on the box.
Yes, I also agree.
We'll see how that goes.
That first year is going to be tough on people, I think. But they've weathered it before when like PS4 and PS5 stuff comes out. Old Uncle Dan saying, "I wish it was a rhythm game." That would be pretty cool, actually. If it was just part rhythm game, that'd be very cool.
I mean, like I said, it reminded me of Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah.
Has very rhythm gamey stuff.
Has that feel.
Speaking of cool ladies in video games, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
There's a new crossover for Street Fighter 6.
Okay.
They are doing a cross promotion with.
Is it a K-pop group?
Yes, aespa.
Oh, right. Yes, I know what you're talking about now. Yes.
Where that they so there's going to be a new there's like a cross promotion thing. There's a new outfit for Jury.
Yeah. Okay.
That is inspired by their outfits. I was really hoping that like more like there's just like one outfit. Like the K-pop group has like a
right.
Multiple people in it.
Yes.
But there's only like one outfit that's just like inspired by.
It would look like she could stand next to them and it'd look, oh yeah, they're all dressed in the same outfits.
Yeah.
Ultimately, even though the outfits are all different for all the different girls. And yeah. Anyway.
But I kind of like the idea that they would like dress up like the whole cast or something.
Oh yeah.
Or
That'd
I
be
don't
cool.
know, maybe just Jury is everybody. That'd be weird, but
in their specific outfits, yeah. I mean, because Jury's outfit is probably going to be since they say it's inspired by, it's like, yeah, it's probably like a design that fits the aesthetic, but it's not a design that any of the current girls already wear.
In fact, you can see here's
What she's got going on.
and then they also are doing a bunch of stuff where they're adding, like in the sort of hub area, there's like music videos and stuff of this K-pop group playing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like
Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying. All right. That's...
and like dashboard stuff.
So if you're a big fan of K-pop or this group or whatever any of this is.
Or if you are a fan of
Hello, real world. Street Fighter 6. Here comes a new commentator. Hello.
if you're a fan of Navis,
Attention is amazing.
Oh.
Now they're really focused. Listen up. Now's your chance.
this
Bloodlust. Even Black Mamba wasn't this scary.
Wow.
I love the idea of them using like that commentator voice for like a really hardcore
Oh, yeah.
Street Fighter 6 tournament.
Two very burly men beating the shit out of each other. Yeah.
So I think that person Navius is a virtual idol,
Like a Hatsune Miku type
Yeah.
situation.
so
Yeah, she's a proper voice synth as opposed to somebody's like Jonathan Colton's Still Alive was, my understanding, was sung by a person and then was like run through a synthesizer to make it fit the GLaDOS voice.
yeah, I mean I forget what her name is, but yeah,
Yeah.
there's an actress playing it.
Yeah, versus something where it's like Hatsune Miku, where it's like
actually generated.
Yeah, it's all phonetics generated based on somebody's voice, but then the phonetics are like what you use to actually sing the song, a little bit different. But yeah,
I mean it's effectively an AI generated.
yeah. So anyway, oh shit, it was the actual voice actress. I guess then maybe it was just run through a vocoder.
Yeah,
or something like
still
that.
live. I mean it's the same actress that did
Yeah.
GLaDOS did also sang the song. And
Right.
they basically do the same thing. It's sort of it's like a vocoding or sort of a slight vocoding and like a bit crush and different, like
Yeah,
it's an effect on her voice.
Yeah. There is other Street Fighter 6 news though as well, because it is the summer season.
Oh yes, there are.
And it's warm in that PS5, I'm led to believe.
Yeah, maybe this will. This will help PS5's overheating because swimsuits.
Hooray!
There's swimsuits for both ladies and also guys.
Yep.
See, the guys have got some swimsuits as well.
Some fat trunks.
Yeah. And then
The ladies have swimsuits that are... The slingshot is back, fellas. And ladies who enjoy ladies. And non-binary people who also enjoy this. Basically anybody who likes looking at half-naked women.
I don't know if this
you're my
counts
people.
as a swimsuit.
I don't know if I go in the water with those claws
Yeah.
is the thing, but yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
I like the lifeguard look, actually. I think that looks super cool. Yeah. But also with the big like boxing gloves. I don't know if I want to be saved by a lifeguard who comes out to save me with boxing gloves. I'm like, are we posting up? Like, do I have to win my way ashore?
Now, there are some obvious, what appear to be missing characters here, but I think that's because people like Ryu already have swimsuit outfits.
Oh, I see.
I know I've seen Ryu in a swimsuit outfit.
Sure,
And
yeah.
it wasn't like fan art.
Right.
Maybe that was in like the previous
And I mean,
Street Fighter game.
I don't actually know enough about what they decide when they decide to release swimsuits. If it's like, okay, well, Cammy and Chun-Li have to have swimsuits, obviously. So if the idea is like, well, we always do that, but that means that every time we do a new swimsuit edition, a couple of the boys now get swimsuits that didn't have swimsuits before, and then we do another run of swimsuits for everyone's favorite girls, and just like eventually gets to a point where it's like Chun-Li has like 7 different swimsuit options or something, whereas like Luke he gets to dress in this and that's it, which is fair because most men have a single swimsuit.
I was gonna say, I feel like of everybody,
I have 3.
I feel like of anybody, Chun-Li probably is probably represented in the various, just because she's in like almost all
yeah.
of the Street Fighter games. I imagine she's got a pretty good collection by now.
Absolutely,
Of
yeah.
swimsuits?
Probably 20 or 30 of them, I'm sure. Yeah. If I looked like Ryu, I would throw all my shirts in the garbage and burn them.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
The man probably doesn't get too cold.
No, definitely
He
not.
has a good layer of muscles to protect him. Here's a little swerve to the side here.
Yep.
There's a visual novel called Dark Auction that is coming out for PS5.
Okay.
And it takes place the main characters apparently the main character's dad was like hunting like Hitler, like Nazis.
Oh, right. Yes. Okay. I was trying to remember
So-
what the story was about. Yeah. Which is like Hitler's mansion is what this kind of has to do with, or his estate
It's a
or
visual
something.
visual novel. But at some point, things have changed
For the game.
for the game.
Okay.
And the Steam page has been, the game hasn't been released yet, but the Steam page has been updated. For one thing, it has a publisher, like before it was developer Izanagi Games, publisher Izanagi Games. Now it's developer Izanagi Games, publisher Good Smile Company. And Izanagi Games.
Yeah.
Anyway, and it also the antagonist or the person they're after is now Dictator X.
Ah, okay. So Mr. Hilter.
One day, an invitation arrives for an auction items, an auction selling items connected to Dictator X. Ignoring Noah's protests, Leo sets off to an ancient castle where the auction is being held, promising to tell Noah everything when he returns, but he never comes back. With no way to contact him, Noah goes off to the castle by himself, only to witness something shocking. I love this. This reminds me of the Wolfenstein that was, the new Wolf, whatever
Colossus?
the new Colossus.
Yeah.
When it was released in
Germany?
in Germany, not only did they do the thing which they often do, which like replace the swastikas with like something else red and black
Yes.
that's sort of evocative.
Yeah.
But my favorite thing is Hitler is in it.
Yeah.
And they just took away his mustache.
Oh.
So he's just like some weird old guy.
With like a weird haircut. Yeah.
Which I love the idea that it's like, yeah, who knows who that guy is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
We just filed the serial numbers off
Yeah,
this a
his
little bit.
mustache was the only thing.
I'm all for like the idea. Like, this feels like the kind of thing where it's like, this really feels like the kind of thing that you see has happened over the years in Japan, because I know from like seeing cosplay pictures of just dudes walking around at Comic-Cat dressed in Gestapo outfits.
Right.
Because the Hugo Boss aesthetic
Because
is...
it's the aesthetic.
Yeah,
right.
and then you see like you see anime really adopt that aesthetic really heavily. That same kind of like very military, but very like with very sharp and very dashing looking kind of thing. And so then everyone dresses up like that. It's like, boy, I'm still seeing a lot of people dressed up like Gestapo walking around because it's like, well, yeah, but my favorite anime was based on the what? And it's like, yeah, but man, I don't like that you guys are building a fandom based around this kind of idea because it really, really it really feels like you're walking very close to like what we're just doing stuff, we don't really feel this way and like that kind of thing.
Right.
And so it's kind of nice to see when it's like, oh, we decided to make a game and it was about like Hitler's estate, and it's like, could it have been about anybody fucking else? Could it have been about a fictional character? Would that be okay rather than making games that, we know he's a bad guy? It's like, yeah, but could maybe just not even, we can just keep that to the textbooks and the history and keeping people understanding that shit and not building a game around it? Maybe that would be better? I don't know. Wolfenstein is one of those weird things where I'm like, it's good that you make a game where you want to punch Nazis. I feel very good about that. And maybe I don't feel so bad about Wolfenstein existing that way, but like a mystery game about like, and then we all went to a mysterious auction to buy Hitler's stolen art and stuff. I'm just like, I don't know how to feel about these things a lot of times. Because you never know what's going on in the minds of people who are making it. And anyway, so they've changed it now. And that's just kind of where that lies.
Yeah,
It's like,
I
it's
mean,
Dictator
maybe-
X.
I hope that, the game isn't actually out yet,
Yeah.
but I hope when it comes out, it's just like, halfway through or whatever, Dictator X was actually, or was actually puts on mustache.
Oh, right, yeah, puts the mustache on. You're like, oh, shit, I should have seen that coming. Yeah.
Oh, no, it's you. Anyway,
God.
The Alters, which is a game that just came out a little while ago. Apparently, it's super cool, super great.
Okay.
It's like a sort of a, I don't know, base building stuff.
Like a tower defense type thing, like RTS, or just...
No, but you also are like working with other versions of yourself and things. I don't quite know what the deal.
Interesting. Okay.
But it, yeah. Yahtzee did a review, like put it as like game of the year on his review that he did a couple weeks ago.
Interesting. Game of the year for 2024 or 2025?
2025. Like it just
Wow.
came out a couple days ago or a couple weeks ago.
Okay. All right.
Very, very cool. Sounds neat. Apparently, so they've had to apologize because apparently they were using some AI generated content.
Oh.
Or so some AI generated content was found into the game.
Okay.
And they have come back and said, we're sorry about this. We used it a little bit for sort of for FPO, temporary stuff.
Oh, okay.
It was a work in progress thing and it ended up in the final game. We apologize. What's funny about it is that the way people realized that it was AI generated content
Yeah.
is that it's just basically like in the background. There's like a texture in the background that's like a data monitor
Okay.
with a bunch of text on it. And clearly they wanted to just put a bunch of text on.
Uh-huh.
Except if you look closely, the text starts with, sure, here's a revised version focusing purely on scientific and astronomical data.
This is...
So clearly somebody wrote like, give me a bunch of like meaningless info that looks like astronomical data, and then it did some bad stuff, or it did some extra stuff, and they were like, okay, just astronomical and scientific data.
And then they left in the prompt or the response or what? Jesus.
That's
God,
the equivalent of the like, the translated thing that's like, I'm out of the office right now.
Yeah. I mean, for stuff like it's funny because for like things like that, I get the urge to be like, we need to generate a thing that's just some nonsense crap to go in the background.
I mean, that's literally what the like lorem ipsum is. Like that's that's a famous thing that's used for
text layout.
Yeah. That it's a chunk of Latin from, I forget where it's from. And it's often used for text layout because it has approximately the same words size and shape.
Yeah.
as English, but it isn't English, so people don't get distracted. So the idea of using AI to sort of generate some text makes sense to me.
Yeah, it makes sense to me that you would want it to do that kind of thing too. What's funny though is things I appreciate anyway is people who pay attention to these kind of things because they want to look in the background and see what's being said or what's being generated, that kind of thing. And isn't it awfully fun that when you look at Futurama and all of the stuff that's on the chalkboards or like stuff in the background or like, you know, there's like images that are whatever. By and large, all that stuff is being generated by people who have PhDs in those subjects
It's like all real stuff.
yeah, it's all real things and it all means something. And I love when that exists. And like, I think the Big Bang Theory even had that going on for itself too, that they're like, we're going to need scientific consultants who actually can understand what a lot of these things are and explain how can we set up, you know, a workable joke or something. But what can we write on these boards so that if you're at home and you happen to even have a passing interest in particle physics, that you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense that he might be looking at that and concentrating on that idea. And so then you get people to come in and make the background stuff just so, no, just sit tight. People that were defending Big Bang Theory. It's like, but those kind of things where it's like, there are people clearly attached to TV shows or to movies who are really interested in trying to get across the real feeling. Also, Linux nerds lost their mind when in The Matrix, Trinity sits down and she uses Nmap to try to hack a system. I'm like, that is a tool you would use to see what ports are open so you could hack a system. It made sense to see it. And everyone got real excited. If you were a Linux nerd, you're like, holy shit, that's really what you would do that at some point.
Hacking is not visually interesting.
It is not. It never is. And so but what this tells me is that we're going to have a massive amount of TV shows that do sci-fi or science or any sort of, not, it doesn't even have to be that. It can be like people are just writing shit on chalkboards where all the set design is going to be just people who are like, I don't have time to figure out how to do this. I don't have time to talk to a consultant, or I just can't be fucking bothered, or we don't have the money to spend like to do these things. So I'm just going to run it through ChatGPT and have it spit out a bunch of stuff, and we're just going to put it on the board and it's not going to make any sense. And we're not going to care because we figure the public won't care until people start calling attention to it like this. And I'm like, oh, we're about to be inundated
Or
with this kind of stuff.
I mean, the other version of that I've seen, which is not and you know, this is not an AI problem. This is a people not paying attention problem. Is, you know, stories we've done on ChillPoint before, where in a video game like Call of Duty or something that takes place in an Arabic country,
Right.
they will inadvertently have Arabic text with like the name of God,
Right.
or something, or Muhammad, or you know, something that is inappropriate,
Yes.
and then they'll, you know, have to apologize and remove it. And sometimes people go like, oh, you're kowtowing to the thing or whatever, you're, you know, whatever.
But it's also like in the chase of realism, they wouldn't have written that way anyway.
And it's also like, it's not like that the text there was making a statement.
No.
It was some graphic designer was like, this looks cool.
Yep.
I'm going to put it on this door
Yeah.
because it looks neat. Because Arabic writing looks really fancy and cool.
Yeah.
I'm not going to bother to check what it actually says.
Yeah. It's the equivalent of
but-
getting Chinese tattoos where you have no
Yeah.
idea what they have on. Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is that happens, or that happened even when people were just doing it manually, but without paying attention.
Yeah.
And you can certainly see that AI is going to sort of start doing that even more so.
And it's going to do it in ways that the people who are looking at it, we already have this happen where like English language manuals for stuff that comes from, that's being manufactured in China or other countries, when those English language manuals show up, they just have a bunch of misspellings. And you're like, I can see why there's a bunch of stuff that's misspelled or is not properly translated or whatever, where it's like, oh, they put an O They wrote the word continue, but it didn't say continue. It says O-O-N-U-E. And you're like, well, why does it say that? It's because the letter forms are so close to each other that they hit a thing that was like, well, yeah, I'm supposed to just put this down, right? That looks like an O, that looks like an O. So I put 2 O's and that's a word apparently. And it's like, no, it's not. Or they put an F where there's a T or something because like the letter form looks correct. So that's the one I'm supposed to press here because I'm writing this thing out and I have no idea what I'm writing. And be the same thing if you asked me to write a Chinese language manual. I'd be just like, that looks like the right character, and you'd put it in, and all of a sudden I've put the word chicken in a place where I'm supposed to put like wire or something like that. And it's like, yeah, it's not going to make sense because you didn't ask somebody who understands how to do it to actually do it. The second thing I want to point out, though, too, what the terrifying nature, I just found out, because I just did my anime roundup, there's an anime out that's called Necronomico and the Cosmic something something. It doesn't really matter. I'm not watching it.
Is it a cute anime girl version of the Necronomicon?
I actually have no idea. I read the synopsis. I'm like, I'm not interested, and I just passed on it. I just saw a report that on Crunchyroll, the English, because it's being simulcast, so it's coming out in Japan on streaming services at the same time that it's also being brought out in North American market, in English language markets, and the subtitles say, ChatGPT said, nah, and it gives you the translation of the thing that they're saying in Japanese.
Every subtitle says that?
Not everyone, but there are some examples that do. And the reason why, as far as they can tell, is not that Crunchyroll is the one who's translating it this way. It's because in the Japanese market, they're providing the subtitles. And so whoever's over there is like, hey, so how would you translate this into English? And ChatGPT said this. And so they copy that and they paste it in the thing. It's like, that's how you'll do it. And they make the subtitle file and Crunchyroll receives it and puts it up on the site. And they don't check it because they don't have to anymore because they're getting the subs directly from the Japanese companies who don't give a shit about whether the English makes sense or not anyway. Because as far as they're concerned, they're like, all we want is the international language money. We don't give a crap whether you guys have a good product or not. You're paying for this thing. It's got a cultural discount attached anyway.
Maybe if there's some backlash that will encourage them to use real translators.
Yeah, I would hope, but I think it's also for Crunchyroll. It's like if they don't get the Japanese. If they're trying to say something is being simulcast, they don't have time to get the script and get it translated fast enough without having to pay a shit ton of money to do it.
Right.
And I'm sure for Crunchyroll, it might be a really good deal that they're not having to do this because they're saving money on getting it translated in the first place.
I mean, you could at least put the script into ChatGPT and say, did ChatGPT write this? Yes. And the ChatGPT would probably come back with, well, it says ChatGPT wrote it in a bunch of places, so probably.
Yeah. And now YouTube's doing AI auto dubbing and everything's going to shit. We know that. It's all going awful. And here's another example of it. And it's a canary in the coal mine, has died 6 times already. So,
Death Stranding 2 is coming out.
Okay.
Or it's out.
I thought it was out.
I think maybe it's out
I'm
now.
not really sure.
But clearly, and so because of, Hideo Kojima has been in the news a lot.
Yes.
And he's been specifically on this news show a lot because he's kind of a fun guy.
Yeah.
And I'm relatively certain that it's also a deliberate, you say
provocations.
You say provocative stuff and you get news and that's good for your game and blah, blah, blah.
Absolutely.
It's a self-perpetuating thing to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But anyway, there was a couple of things about that they came out. So, of course, Death Stranding 2, beautiful, beautiful game.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things about it is they've got very realistic characters in it.
Yeah.
Norman Reedus is in it. Looks like Norman Reedus. And it's also, he does the full performance capture for it, and they're using all sorts of cameras and stuff to capture his face and his body and all these things to make
practically playing a movie at this point.
Yeah, where they're making it look as realistic as possible.
Neat.
And someone was asking Hideo Kojima why he doesn't actually have more Asian people in, like, more Japanese people in his game
Yeah.
when it's being made in Japan. You would think that would be, whereas most of the main characters in his games tend not to be.
Yeah.
And
He said.
He
said.
he says one of the things with this performance capture is that they have found that Japanese people tend to look fake with it. And he put that down to Asian skin is too beautiful. It's too smooth. And
That is the translation of what he said.
That is the translation of what he says.
And I'm just like, oh man.
It is difficult to make Asians look like their real life counterparts. Women and young people in particular have such beautiful smooth skin. Asians, not just Japanese people, are known for their beautiful smooth skin, and it ends up looking like CG. It's easier to bring out the details in older people or people with like a lot of freckles.
Yeah.
I've tried to use Japanese people in the past, but it's hard to make them look like their real life counterparts. However, this time I've been using some new technology and I'm satisfied with the results, but we'd like to do even better next time.
The thing is, I spent almost a month in Japan, and I didn't think I was surrounded by a bunch of computer graphics. They were real people walking around.
I guess something about the subtlety in there. I mean, the Norman Reedus, a very handsome guy.
Yes.
Kind of craggy, I would say.
Sure, absolutely.
From his face, yeah.
I believe it.
Same with Mads Mikkelsen.
Mm-hmm. Has very distinct features.
Yeah. So I could see how that would sort of come across in the scan, maybe.
Yes. And sure, if you're like you could also you could also make the point where it's like, well, you know how like cameras for the last 50, 60, basically since the inception of like cameras and like color film, that were very much made to capture the skin tone of white people and kind of not anybody else. And I'm like, I guess in a way that maybe the equipment they're using to capture skin tone and like and features and everything else that you would do, maybe those are very well calibrated to capture the wide variety of ugliness that white people have to put on display. And maybe the porcelain beauty of those in Asia cannot just come across in what the quality that we've been able to achieve so far. But supercomputers are working to crack the issue. It just sounds like such a weird thing. It's like, because I was going to write a story about this, and I'm like, the only thing I can say is that I am doing my damnedest to tell you about this story without being ashamed of my words and deeds.
In other fun things that Hideo Kojima has said news.
Great.
After Death Stranding 2,
Yeah.
he would like to make a space game.
Okay.
Now, to be clear, this isn't he wants to make a game set in space. He wants to go to space and make a game.
Just him? Take the whole team?
Yeah. He's saying I don't want to visit space on an expensive tourist trip. Mm-hmm. I want to train properly, learn how to do the docking, and go to the International Space Station. Stay there for a few months. I'm not a scientist, but I could probably make games in space.
I mean, yes.
I want to be the first.
That's kind of cool. I love that. How old is he? Like in his like mid 50s?
Well, he says, I want to be the first. There are lots of astronauts over 60, so I guess it's possible.
Oh, shit. Oh, no. Okay. Because, I mean, like, I can see him somehow get together with, like, any of the commercial space companies and maybe they'd fly him up into orbit or some shit. But I don't see anyone being like, let's put you... Also, the ISS is, like, due in the next 5 to 10 years to deorbit, isn't it?
I don't know.
I thought it was that they're like, we are not maintaining this vessel. We're going to actually have to deorbit it. And... ugh. I mean, yeah, good on you, Kojima. Like, I want to make a space game
made in space. It reminds me a little bit. We did the joke of I think it was, I don't know if it was a crap shot or something, or something else we did, but we had um, this is the first car designed in a wind tunnel.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not using a wind tunnel for the aerodynamics of the car, but they got people designing it are physically in the wind tunnel while they're trying to design it.
Blowing everywhere, yeah. It's like, shit. I love that this is the thing of, though, being a kid and saying, like, I'm going to grow up and be an astronaut, like that kind of idea. It's like, you have no idea what that means, but dreams are unnecessary and beautiful and complicated and weird. And I said it in ChillPoint, right? It's like, and this is a dream where I'm like, you should absolutely dream that. You're not going to get a chance to go to space for several months and make a video game up there. You're just not going to get that opportunity, because everybody who gets to go up and be on the ISS and do things, they have so much work to do. You don't just get to go to space for 6 months and be like, I'm just going to be here, like tippy-tapping away on my keyboard and writing a video game. It's like, that's not what's going to happen. But I think if he went to space for like a half hour and got to do like the
Space Game Jam
weightless thing and got to feel what that was like, maybe that would inspire him for ideas and stuff. But I could see that. So yeah, who knows? He's got lots of time left before he dies, I bet. So yeah, maybe he gets to go to space at some point. It's not up to me.
And then finally, last story I have here. Yay! There's been an update to copper to make it more useful.
Like copper, the stuff in like wires and shit?
Brackets in Minecraft.
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah. This is like a fortune teller or fortune cookies that whenever you get them, you can put in Minecraft at the end of them. Yes. Okay.
I love that. So copper is a thing that you can get in Minecraft.
Okay. Yeah.
Apparently there's not much to do with it though.
But it's so useful. Like
I know.
Cables. We have redstone for that. I guess.
In Minecraft, there isn't much to do with it.
No.
And so a new update is going to come out. They're saying that basically everyone would just like mine copper and then like put it in chests. And you could make like decorative stuff with it, but you couldn't really do anything useful with it.
Oh, okay.
Which is, that's like in the real world, copper is like one of the most useful elements.
Yeah.
So now you can make copper chests, copper armor, copper tools, copper web, and copper tools. So basically, before you had to go from like stone tools to iron tools.
I see.
So now you've got copper tools that are, I guess, halfway in between. Sort of.
I don't think you could convince me to use a copper pickaxe.
Copper pickaxe?
Yeah, I think it would work once and then never on the second strike. Because it's so malleable, right?
Yeah. It's easier to find than iron.
Oh, okay.
You can make a copper golem.
I like that.
Who actually, he's like a little guy. He's just a little guy.
Oh, yeah. I like that.
Who apparently will like move things around, take things out of chests and move them. And like you can like get him to like, transport stuff from one chest to another and things.
Alrighty.
So that seems cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this could open up a whole thing for the chunk punching.
Oh yeah.
Because previously you were making your stone pickaxes, and then you had to go find some, and then eventually, once you got farther enough down, you would find iron, and then you would you could do iron pickaxes.
So if you find copper, you might
copper could be, could just blow the meta of the chunk punch open.
I need to ask, because I'm not sure, is bronze an alloy of copper and tin?
It is an alloy of copper and something.
Yes.
I think tin.
So if they're using copper as a stand-in for bronze, then I can kind of understand it. They're like, the copper we have in our game is not the same copper that you would have. So
I don't think tin is in the game.
Yeah, but being able to say, well, copper will be our stand-in for bronze, so you can make copper shields and copper whatever's, and yeah, I had a feeling it was because I was watching a lot of like Wade Dankpod's The Drum Thing, and he was talking about making cymbals and stuff, and they use a lot of bronze, and I was like, yeah, and that's copper and tin, I think he said one time, and I was like, right, that's important. I should remember this. We need to rebuild society and make cymbals again. We're going to need to we need to make a gong, so.
Anyway, I always love this idea. It happens sometimes in like No Man's Sky and things where
Yeah.
they sort of like because these worlds are created by the game engine and stuff, right?
Right.
But just because I mean, in the real world, that kind of happens too, right? We've found a new use for X element, and suddenly that element becomes super in demand.
Yeah. You're like, oh, this thing makes me glow. And it's like, yeah, but also it's going to power this city.
Yeah. But just the idea that it's just like, oh, hey, we've updated copper. Now you can make stuff out of it. And
It
it's
is
not-
nice, yeah.
And unlike in the real world, it's like, oh, we discovered a new thing that we can do with copper. We can make things out of it. And it's like, no, you literally couldn't do that before.
Right.
And then God said,
But also, have you tried
yeah.
taking those blocks of copper and I do think it's funny that, for one thing though, I do think it's funny that existed in the game as a thing you could dig up and do almost nothing with. Like it was just it sounds like for decorative whatever. It's like making a decorative block or whatever. It's like, we put this in the game, but it has no use ultimately. And that seems weird to me that something that's like...
Minecraft has a surprisingly large amount of that stuff.
Okay.
There's a lot of kind of weird, goofy things in Minecraft. If you look at like the sort of like the Minecraft wikis and stuff, like there's a lot of blocks that either there's no purpose for or there's like one purpose for. It's like, oh, you need this thing so that you can build like a bookshelf.
Right.
But
Okay.
like the components to build, like you need like wood and then you need this thing. And like the other component, or it's like you need I think, yeah, for a bookshelf, it's like, anyway, there's sort of
sure.
all these things where there's like the sort of tech tree that's like, you need this so you can get this, so you can get this, so you can get this.
Right.
And like, that's it. There's no branches to this tree. It's just like, there's this entire area
Building to the one thing. Yeah.
and it's like,
Huh.
I feel like, and it's like, what could that be? And usually the answer is that was just like, especially a lot of the like early ones, it's just
Okay.
like, that was somebody at Mojang's pet thing.
Oh,
And so they just put it in.
I'm here because I don't play Minecraft, so I just kind of hear about these things. But like, yeah, it has a wealth of use if you like building pretty things, has some niche uses, had a very niche mechanical use. I'm seeing lightning rods, spyglasses, and brushes, I guess. Copper lamps. Yeah, has multiple variants for each level of patina. Okay, so yeah, this is definitely the kind of thing where somebody was like, I have a big stick up my ass about wanting to do really cool things with copper as an idea. So, all right.
well, I mean, it says in this article, like, yeah, the couple of developers of Mojang were like, I had like 3 chests full of stacks of copper
Right.
that I didn't know what to do with. And I was like, there's got to be something we can do with this stuff.
Whereas there's one guy at Mojang who's like, I'm the copper king. I'm the one who keeps driving the use of copper forward. I keep putting it into the stuff and because I know what to do with all of it. And I'm amazing. Look at my copper palace. Like I see that. So yeah, that's interesting.
But there's stuff like, and there'd be just like, like axolotls are in Minecraft.
That's right. Yeah.
But like much more common animals aren't.
Right.
Just because they were like, we want to make those. We like them.
Why not?
Yeah.
Let's have them in here.
Anyway. Yeah, they just shorted copper futures. And then... I mean, I'm sure stuff like that has happened with games like more games like
That have an economy.
yeah, like you say like Second Life or
I was going to say Eve because
Eve,
somebody brought up
yeah.
Eve.
or like Eve or something, like, because that has happened a couple times. I know I was reading a thing about Eve, like it's happened a couple times where like they change the how much resources certain types of asteroids give.
Oh, okay.
Right, they'll push out an update to do that will completely change the sort of meta of like what to be doing,
Right.
if you're an asteroid miner, what things to go for or whatever,
Right.
or what, suddenly this resource becomes more common or less common or whatever, and so you've been stockpiling it and now it's worthless.
Right. Yeah.
But if you know that it's going to happen before it happens,
You just clear all your shit out. You make some money off that, and then whoever is stuck with no chair at the end of the music, that they're the ones who's out.
Yeah. They're literal insider trading
Yeah.
within the company. Anyway, that's all the stories that had to talk about this time. But
Feels good.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for hanging out. If you haven't seen this week's episode of ChillPoint, you should do so. It's over up on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/LRRVG. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's probably somewhere in the recommended thing for this video, if the algorithm is working the way it's supposed to. But in any case, we will talk to all y'all later.
And follow the Patreon thing like we said earlier. That's important too.
It's true.
Yeah, you can do
Patreon, in some ways, it's kind of like borrowing money from the past.
Yes.
Which is also just like saving money.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
See you soon.